Welcome to MojoPlays. Today, we're looking at the 20 best historical figures in Assassin's Creed games.
We shall meet again. And Miss Fry.
Ma'am?
Should you want it? I saved you some cake.
Who says you don't learn anything by playing video games?
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
HERODOTUS, Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Who's this?
Just a simple pilgrim. He just saw the oracle. I couldn't help but ask if she's as glorious as they say.
The ancient Greek is generally referred to as the father of history, as throughout his lifetime he wrote many historical works that form the basis of how the field of history has been conducted for thousands of years since. However, he isn't really known for his reliability, often including fantastical stories and myths in his historical accounts.
Well, it's just he seemed interested in legends. Like you. I thought you might get along. How did...
But he appears as one of Cassandra's closest allies in Odyssey, joining her on the Adastria. So, Ubisoft is perhaps taking the line that all those impossible things Herodotus wrote about actually could have happened, especially in the world of Assassin's Creed.
Drawing blood in Delphi is considered an insult to Apollo. Punishment is severe.
Alexander Graham Bell, Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Oh, comes apart. I see. Could have used one of these to fit my fuses on top of Big Ben.
This genius inventor developed and eventually patented the first telephone back in the 1870s. But we catch up with a younger version of him in Syndicate, years before he eventually left Britain for North America. He's essentially Evie and Jacob's Q, building various tools and gadgets that they can use against the Templars. He repairs and creates the grappling hook, voltaic bombs, and smoke bombs they use throughout the game.
And have noted down the formula for you. It's not perfect yet, but by golly, it works.
He also enlists their help in freeing London's newspapers, which were previously printing only news and stories that benefited Crawford Starrick and the Templars. He disappears after the first hour or two, but is a fun presence when he's around.
Should you find yourselves with a moment to spare, do drop by.
Paul Revere, Assassin's Creed 3.
Ah, Connor! What a relief! You came! Allow me to...
He was famously the man who warned the Continental Army that the British are coming! Though, in real life, Revere never actually said those words during his midnight ride. In the game, we find out that he didn't even ride the horse either. Connor was given that duty, having to ride through the frontier following Revere's frustratingly vague directions to warn the militiamen.
The British are coming! Back in the saddle, my friend! We have more people to warn!
Despite his reputation as a hero of the American War of Independence, Ubisoft portrayed Revere as an irritating presence that Connor doesn't even particularly want to help. Though, the mission would have been a lot more fun if the horse galloping wasn't so slow.
It's best you stay here and help our man John Parker hold the town. It'll give us time to spread the word.
Queen Victoria, Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Your Majesty, I apologize.
The cake is particularly good. Enjoy the ball.
At the end of Syndicate, we find out that the Shroud of Eden is being held in a secret vault underneath Buckingham Palace, built to contain it by Prince Albert. During this final mission, the Frys infiltrate the palace, and Evie makes the acquaintance of Her Majesty. There are a handful of Queen Victoria missions in the post-game where you help her in all sorts of ways.
We shall meet again. And Miss Fry.
Ma'am?
Should you want it? I saved you some cake.
Including by thwarting a Templar plot to blow up the House of Parliament. The game ends with the Queen asking the Frys to serve the crown, and Evie telling her to abandon the ruthless imperialism of the British Empire. She doesn't listen, but at least Evie tries.
I understand and respect your position. Bound as you are by your creed. You will indulge me one final time and receive these gifts.
ASPASIA, Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I couldn't help but notice your talent for debate. Well done.
Socrates is an interesting character.
Pericles may be the leader of Athens, but Aspasia is the woman behind the man, and is one of the most interesting characters in the game. Early on, she helps Cassandra find her mother, but all isn't as it seems. After purging the Greek world of the cult of Cosmos, we learn that, all along, Aspasia has been its shadowy leader, the Ghost.
Ah, Phoebe. Pericles has retired to the balcony already, has he? His ability to sneak off and sulk is second to none.
She explains that the cult had different objectives originally, only for it to be corrupted by Deimos. Aspasia helped Cassandra, allowing her to wipe out the cult because she disagreed with what they were doing. In real life, very little is known about Aspasia, though it's unlikely she was in charge of a clandestine organization like this.
When you're done, return here. Together, we will find who you're looking for.
Winston Churchill, Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
We appear to have been following the same trail, Miss Fry.
I got here first.
Indeed, you are to be commended. I fear, however, that we have not wholly rooted out the evil in this vicinity.
He wasn't born until 1874, a few years after most of Syndicate takes place, but you'll remember him if you played the World War I missions. By traveling through an anomaly in the most eastern part of the River Thames, you'll go to 1915 and take control of Lydia Fry. Lydia is enlisted by Churchill himself to help eradicate German spies from London, and of course, they're all also Templar agents.
One of my experimental projects when I was Lord of the Admiralty. I haven't always been a man of shadows.
And I suppose this victory will thrust you back into the limelight.
Churchill's also one of the associates whose loyalty you need to gain for various achievements. If you didn't play the World War I level, you were missing out on a great diversion that again proves that a 20th century mainline Assassin's Creed would work if Ubisoft would only greenlight it.
Then we both have our own affairs to attend to.
Know that you have done a great service to your country. Thank you.
The Borgias, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
I know you're there, Ezio!
Rodrigo, Cesare, and Lucrezia Borgia feature prominently in Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood. They're some of the best and most detestable villains in gaming, but their video game portrayal may not be true to life. There are plenty of stories and rumors about the Borgia's depravity and sinful lives, but there's a growing consensus among modern historians that a lot of the tales about their debauchery may have been slander, levied toward them by other Italian noble families at the time.
Cesare, it's me, your queen.
You are my sister, nothing more.
Where is it?
But that would have made for a less interesting story, and it was certainly a satisfying conclusion to hunt down Cesare and finally assassinate him after what he did to Ezio's family.
Come then, Ezio!
Bartholomew Roberts, Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag.
I've no secrets to share with you now. But if you'll lend me your aid, in 2 months' time west of the Leeward Islands, it's there you'll get some answers.
You probably know him better as Black Bart, but the infamous pirate was never called this during his lifetime. When he arrives in the game, we find out that he's the first sage we ever encounter in the series, a reincarnation of the Isu Aita, who wants to reclaim the Crystal Skull. He also betrays Edward and becomes a major villain.
Oh, it's a small gambit. This fount of information has just told me that a nearby galleon contains the treasure I seek.
In real life, Roberts was a classic pirate, known for flying a Jolly Roger above his ship and devising a pirate code for his crew to follow, with an array of strict pirate rules. He was also a very successful pirate up until his defeat in 1722, capturing hundreds of ships and freeing many slaves.
Destroy this body, Edward. The Templars. If they take me.
NICCOLÒ Machiavelli, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
We can speak of vaults and gods and ancient places. You should have killed him. We're sure to suffer for it.
Upon Ezio's arrival in Rome, Machiavelli helps him get the lay of the land. He was in Assassin's Creed 2, but becomes a more important ally in Brotherhood, showing Ezio how the Borgias control the city and how the people can be freed. He's also briefly suspected by La Volpe of being a traitor to the Assassins, in a dramatic mission set.
They are going to torture her. You are here for Cesare and Rodrigo.
In real life, Machiavelli was a renowned statesman and political philosopher, working primarily for the Medicis in Florence, who were also allies to the assassins in the games. In fact, he spent most of his time in Florence in reality, only visiting Rome occasionally on diplomatic missions.
Go kill them, Mentore. Finish what you started.
Leonidas I of Sparta, Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
You are no one. You are more than welcome to find out.
The game opens with a dramatic recreation of the Battle of Thermopylae, Spartans' last stand against the Persians. Leonidas is the most famous king Sparta ever had, and it turns out he's the grandfather of Cassandra, which is how she gets his legendary spear, itself an Isu artifact, to use as a stand-in for the hidden blade. Throughout the course of the game, we get other flashbacks as Cassandra is briefly able to relive Leonidas' memories. She witnesses his death and humiliation at the hands of Xerxes, the Persian king, while visiting a monument to Leonidas with Herodotus. Alfred the Great, Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Have faith that the Lord God watches over you all.
One of the most famous English kings, Alfred the Great is so named because of his efforts fending off many Viking invasions, encouraging widespread literacy, and unifying the country's warring kingdoms. He became the first monarch of all of England. In typical Ubisoft form, though, Alfred takes on a more villainous role than history generally affords him. Now, he's the sinister enemy of the Raven clan and the most important Templar in England. In fact, it eventually comes out that Alfred is the father of the Templar Order as it exists by the time of the Crusades. So much for being great.
I do not know if we shall meet again, Eivor. God willing, we will.
Robespierre, Assassin's Creed Unity.
Germain warned me about you. You're one of them, aren't you? An assassin.
Not anymore.
The tyrant himself, it wouldn't be a game about the French Revolution without him. A hugely influential figure in French history, was under Robespierre's leadership that the First French Republic's reign of terror began, and King Louis XVI was executed. Arnaud and Elise finally make Robespierre's acquaintance at the height of the Thermidorian reaction. Famously, as Robespierre was violently ousted, he was shot non-lethally in the face. In Unity, it's Elise herself who does this while trying to find the location of the game's main villain. Robespierre wasn't the only leader of France to be encountered during Unity. Arnaud also bumps into a young Napoleon Bonaparte.
I wanted him assigned to some out-of-the-way garrison, but the man redefines the term friends in high places. He's untouchable.
Suleiman I, Assassin's Creed Revelations.
Well, to be precise, that is Europa. That is Asia.
Some borders even the Ottomans cannot move.
The Ottoman Empire's longest reigning sultan, Ezio encounters a young, idealistic Suleiman during his time in medieval Turkey. The highly educated prince gets involved with the assassins many years before he'd eventually become Suleiman the Magnificent, given that name because of his widespread reforms and military victories. He and Ezio's interests briefly align, and it is even Suleiman who helps Ezio finally make it across the Black Sea to Cappadocia and saves his life more than once. Of all the royals and monarchs you brush shoulders with during these games, Suleiman is one of the few who's actually likable and remains a key ally throughout.
You are not dead yet, old friend.
Anne Bonny and Mary Read, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
I reckon she's past caring anyway.
Oh, you're a hard heart that should be softer.
Or soft in parts that should be hard.
These two legendary female pirates sailed together on the high seas in the company of Calico Jack, who's much less memorable though he does appear in Black Flag. Bonny and Reed famously dressed up as men during their time at sea, and in keeping with this, when you first encounter Reed, she's in disguise. Of all the pirates Kenway befriends, these two are some of the most colorful, though he also ends up running into Blackbeard, perhaps the most famous pirate of all time. Reed, Blackbeard, and Kenway are all masterminds behind freeing Nassau from the Royal Navy. Wining and dining the most notorious pirates in history is definitely a fun way to spend your time.
I'd be a hopeful man if you were beside me.
England's the wrong way around the globe for an Irishwoman.
Charles Dickens, Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
They leave themselves vulnerable to charlatans, which is why I joined the Ghost Club.
Of course, the Victorian era's most famous author showed up in Syndicate and almost immediately met the Fry twins. He enlists their help in some of the whole series' best side missions, where you join him as an investigator for the Ghost Club. At Dickinson's behest, you'll debunk a haunted house, a ghostly carriage, and even unravel the mystery behind the monstrous spring-heeled Jack. The best part is that this is historically accurate. Charles Dickens really did join the Ghost Club and spent time proving paranormal occurrences were hoaxes. But if that Charles isn't to your liking, you can also help Charles Darwin out a few times when he's the victim of some unflattering caricatures.
Charles Darwin, delighted to make your acquaintance. Jacob Fry.
Al-Mu'alim, Assassin's Creed.
Alec has told me of the arrogance you displayed, your disregard for our ways.
What are you doing?
There are rules.
AC fans will know him as Al-Mu'alim, while historians better recognize his figure as Rashid ad-Din Sinan. There are plenty of key differences between Al-Mu'alim in the game and in reality, like how the real guy never found an ancient artifact capable of bending people to his will, but also some similarities. Sinan was the leader of the Order of Assassins that really did operate out of Masyaf during the Crusades. He's a major character in the first game, initially being Altair's teacher and leader, and eventually becoming the main villain when his machinations on the Apple of Eden were made clear.
Impossible. The student does not defeat the teacher.
Caesar and Cleopatra, Assassin's Creed Origins.
I can offer you what my brother failed at with me. Marriage. A true marriage, that is.
If you ally with my sister, I will kill every last Roman in Alexandria.
There are many famous Roman emperors, but Julius Caesar remains the most recognizable. His long-running affair with Cleopatra VII, herself one of Egypt's most notorious rulers, is played out in its entirety during Assassin's Creed Origins, as Io works directly under Cleopatra to oust her brother from Egypt's throne. And Origins' story goes on for so long that we get to play through Caesar's death on the Ides of March when he was stabbed in broad daylight by his closest allies. The game goes deep into political intrigue behind the end of Caesar's life and how Rome came to control Egypt, spending lots of time with these major historical figures.
I'm worried that my quarters are not as comfortable as your palace.
Comforts? We despise them.
Alkibiades, Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Don't mind her. She likes to watch. Look at you.
You'll meet a lot of bizarre people in your odyssey across the Greek world, but the Athenian politician Alkibiades is a cut above the rest. You first encounter him at a party Pericles is hosting, getting up to no good with half a dozen people in the back room. But he keeps returning and gets funnier every time, asking for your help with a series of unusual side missions that turn out to be elaborate schemes to help his friends. And where Alkibiades goes, it seems Socrates is never far behind, always with another riddle to get on your nerves.
Speak to him long enough, and you may find the smallest hint of knowledge veiled deep behind his enthusiastic advances.
Benjamin Franklin, Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed Rogue.
Benjamin Franklin, pleased to meet you. Haytham Kenway. You must be new to Boston. Why do you say that? You're still possessed of virtue. To stop and help an old lout like myself.
You run into all the founding fathers in Assassin's Creed 3 sooner or later, helping George Washington and other key revolutionary figures in their war against the British. But the most fun character to spend a few missions helping is by far Benjamin Franklin, who spends the game inventing useful devices and giving Haytham some choice advice where it comes to older women. He's back again in the tyrannical King Washington timeline and even shows his face in both Rogue and Unity, encountering Shay and Arno and accidentally helping Shay to kill Arno's father.
I heard he would be at the Chateau de Versailles 2 days from now.
And they don't just let anyone inside the royal palace.
Leonardo da Vinci, Assassin's Creed 2 and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
The contents of this page are encrypted, but if my theory is correct, based on these sketches, it may very well what? Please, sit. Leonardo,
Quite possibly the greatest inventor in human history, Leonardo da Vinci is one of the best characters to ever appear in Assassin's Creed. Ezio first meets Leonardo before he leaves Florence and gives him a few new tools. He even loans Ezio the use of his flying machine at one point. By the time Brotherhood rolls around, Leonardo has been forced to design war machines for Cesare Borgia, including an early tank and machine gun. He asks Ezio to sneak into the top-secret compounds and destroy both the machines and the blueprints. He's a great character, and his friendship with Ezio is great each time Leonardo returns.
Oh, yes, I'm thinking of repainting the St. John lost in the Bill of Fire. Salai would model for it again, of course. Then, perhaps I will study a woman with child to see how her body changes.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, there's more where that came from.